This is the Radical Rant Podcast.
What a match. Wait a minute. Sean Spears? Oh! Spears with a chair shot right to the side of the head of Cody, who couldn't even get his hand up.
What is going on, everybody? Adam, aka askcsradical, here with you guys. Welcome to a bonus Radical Rant podcast as we go through the All Elite Wrestling Fyter Fest event that happened yesterday, as I'm recording this on the Sunday after the event had taken place. We didn't get a chance to watch it live, so I did manage to pick it up on the VOD. And we have a lot to go through and talk about here. Right off the very beginning, I just want to let you guys know that from now on, any of these wrestling reviews that I do are going to be bonus podcasts now. I'm not going to just have them as a separate video. It's kind of a nice little addition, obviously for people who want to get a little bit more, especially those that are big wrestling fans out here. Obviously Fight for the Fallen will be coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't know if this will ever translate to WWE shows, because right now I am completely on the fritz with WWE. I have no interest in watching what they're doing at this point. So who knows, maybe we get to more than just one show. Maybe there's a New Japan show here and there. You never know, but AEW right now is my key focus, because right now this is where my head's at. And maybe I'll do a video at some point, kind of explaining where my head's at as a wrestling fan, but for now, I just want to go through the event, because just like Double or Nothing, there is a lot to go through here, and once again, had a very good time watching it. This one, not nearly as much as Double or Nothing, and we'll get to the reasons why as we go along. But by no mistake, this is still a very good show in comparison to a lot of stuff I've been watching previously before All Elite Wrestling really started to begin. So, right off the bat, obviously they're there in Daytona Beach, Florida at CEO, the massive gaming tournament. I'm not too big on esports stuff, so I haven't really watched anything beyond what goes on at CEO, but I think it's really cool that they have the wrestling ring set up in there and gives it make it more of an event. I've seen some really fun entrances at these kind of shows. Like I remember, was it K-Brad, I believe, who came out like Stone Cold Steve Austin was drinking Monster, I believe, and giving the announcer a stunner, like stuff like that. It's fun. Like that's the stuff that I think esports needs. They need to bring a little bit more fun into it, and I think it's so great. I think somebody came out with like the Val Venus entrance with the towel and everything. Like that kind of stuff is so cool, and I love that. And so for All Elite Wrestling to have the business sense to go, hey, here's these guys doing something really cool. We already know that the audience we're aiming for is the gaming crowd to begin with. So it's such a match made in heaven, and good on AEW or CEO, depending on who started that conversation. But in turn, both of them, good on them for making that call to make this one thing. And it ended up being absolutely fantastic. Loved every second of it. So let's start with the pre-show. The first match that we got was a triple threat tag team match. The winner of this match was going to be getting a bye in the first week of the tag team tournament to become the first ever All Elite Wrestling tag team titles. I don't know when they've said they're supposed to be starting this tournament, whether it's starting when the TV starts, which rumor has it it's going to be Wednesdays and will start October 2nd. That's not confirmed, but that is where the rumor mill is going at this point. Or this could be starting when it could even start at Fight for the Fallen. It could start it All Out. Who knows? We'll obviously wait and see when that happens, but the winner of this match is going to get a bye in the first round. So already big stakes on the line here for this match. So I'm familiar with Best Friends and SoCal Uncensored. Obviously, Chuck Taylor has been a favorite of mine for a long time. Trent Beretta, well, I guess Trent now. Ever since he left WWE, I actually saw him start to wrestle a lot, especially in New Japan when he started going over there and working with Rocky Romero as part of Roppongi Vice. Didn't realize how good of a wrestler he was and was really impressed with him there. So those two guys I'm really well behind. SoCal Uncensored, all three of those guys are good. In this case, this tag team was Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. Knew a lot about Kazarian. Same deal. Didn't see him blow me away in the early stages when I was watching him, especially back in Impact. And then Scorpio Sky, I don't think I'd ever heard of before. So when I first saw him, I'm thinking, okay, so there's it's probably like the young blood, the bigger high flyer in there. And sure enough, that's exactly what it is. Private Party, on the other hand, I have never heard of up until this point. And I didn't know what to expect with them. They had kind of like that Street Profits kind of vibe to them. And I got to tell you, I think is it Mark Kwan is the guy with the crazy fucking haircut. He really impressed me in this match. All six teams really, or all six guys did their thing in there. Is it Isaiah Tom? No. The other partner in Private Party, I think Isaiah was his first name. He was the odd one that it was just like, you're doing all right. I mean, it's not. That guy wasn't specifically blowing me. Okay, there it is. I found it. Isaiah Cassidy. There we go. Isaiah Thomas is a fucking basketball player. Cassidy was all right. He was the weaker one out of the six of them. It's not to say it's a bad thing. I mean, obviously, you look at some wrestling and various other promotions. A guy like Isaiah Cassidy could be your top guy over there. So either way, like for a first impression, like because I'm not counting the Double or Nothing Battle Royal where we first saw them. They were really impressive. I can see why the Young Bucks have taken a shine to them and wanted these guys here. Definitely putting them on the map and giving them a real shot to kick some ass here. I'm trying to remember specific spots in that match. There was just a lot of really good high-flying kicks and dives. I don't think there was one moment that really stood out in that match. It was just an overall just like tape to tape, just really fast match. A lot of high spots in there. And in the end, the best friends are the guys who win it with the Yoshi Tonic, I believe. And those guys will get the bye in the first round. I don't know if that necessarily means you're looking at them as winning. I mean, if the Young Bucks or the Lucha Brothers are in that tournament, I would suspect one of those two teams are going to be winning it first. My gut instinct would say the Lucha Brothers, because if the Young Bucks win it right away, they'll figure there's favoritism. It's why I knew that Kenny Omega was going to lose a Double or Nothing, because they don't want him in the first match for the title. They don't want to make it seem like it's favoritism. Adam Page is in there because they want to get him on the map, but I still feel like Jericho's going to win because they want to make it seem like they're not playing favorites right off the bat. I feel like Kenny Omega will be the second because of that. So in the tag team aspect, just because the best friends win this, I don't think that necessarily means they're going to go very far in the tournament or will win it. My instincts would tell me Lucha Brothers for that tournament if they are in it. If not, we'll see what it goes when we get the actual brackets. But either way, these six guys put on a really good opening match. That's the kind of stuff you want on a pre-show to really get things going. However, it was followed by something that probably should not have been on the show at all. Although I will admit there was a funny moment at the beginning because Kenny, they had a little segment that was playing before this match coming up. And it's Kenny talking with the Young Bucks, and because the Young Bucks apparently lost their gear. So Kenny's getting them some gear, which we'd obviously find out later in the night, and was probably my favorite moment of the night. We'll get to that later, like I said. But he's talking about how, well, it cost them like half the budget. So on stage at the beginning of the night, there were 4 bikini-clad women on the stage. And then they said, oh, we have to cut half the budget, so that means half the girls are going. So 2 girls left, and then all of a sudden they bring out 2 mannequins in bikinis, which I thought was really funny. And then we get the librarian Leva Bates. And I really do like Leva Bates. Obviously as Blue Pants in NXT, she was fun. This gimmick is really stupid. And I know that it's probably just trying like the cheap heat thing, but this one's not working. I really think it's dumb as fuck. I'm trying really hard to like it. It's not like pissing me off, but it's more along the lines of like, all right, guys, let's go. Let's move along. Let's get going here. And it transferred into a match between her and Allie, who I don't know anything about. I understand that she was on Impact a bunch. I don't watch Impact, so I haven't seen her. This match was not offensively bad, but it was not good. I would not tell you that this was a match deserving to be on a card of this caliber, although Fyter Fest is a smaller show, so maybe you can justify it here. But all things considered, like, this is a match that I would have seen on a much smaller independent show. Like, this quality was just not high enough for an event like this, especially compared to the women's match we got later down the card, on the main card for that matter. Yeah, I couldn't tell you that anything really stood out. It was not the fastest of pace. A lot of moves didn't seem like they were hitting properly. So I never really got into this match, which is crazy considering how much I got into a match that had a guy with baby oil and the CEO of a gaming esports tournament. And that one I'll get to in a second. But this match just did nothing. I basically kind of just stared off into the abyss and was kind of doing a couple other things while this match was on, because couldn't get myself to be invested in what was going on. And it was the only match in the night that did that. So hopefully they can take that match, learn from it, and see what they can do with it, because if they want to make this women's division what they say they're going to make it, they need to have every match count. And this is essentially their first women's single match on the card, and it did not impress at all. Not even in the slightest. So we finished off the pre-show with a hardcore match between Michael Nakazawa, who I am quickly becoming a massive fan of, and Alex Jabali, the CEO of CEO. And I've heard a lot of things about this guy, and I don't know what's sarcastic and what's meant to be legit, because this guy seems to be like he has a bit of an ego. I don't know if that's like in jest, but this guy obviously came out. He has wrestled before, and I believe he broke his leg at one point, or tore something. I can't remember which one it was. I remember seeing the Road to Fyter Fest video where they were talking with him about it, and I remember it being a leg injury. So he comes out. Michael Nakazawa takes a second to be like, I do commend you, though, for recovering from your left leg, or right leg. And Jabali goes, well, I guess you didn't do your homework because it was the left leg. And Nakazawa goes, thanks for telling me, and immediately starts kicking him in that leg. There's a little bit of comedy here and there. Obviously, the baby oil was used a lot with Nakazawa. It wasn't nearly as crazy, although they got it right out of the way. Quickly puts the oil on himself, gets out of a waist lock, throws a little bit on the ground so Jabali falls. Bryce Remsburg, the referee, who I fucking love, and I'm so happy he's in AEW. He's my favorite referee of all time. He also slips in the oil. Nice little fun moment there. They have a few weapons come out. I think he hits Nakazawa with a clipboard. Then he gets a fight stick from Justin Wong, who is a legendary esports player in the fighting game community. Hits him with that. And then eventually he gets a bag that you're thinking, okay, well, that's normally a thumbtack bag, so what's it going to be? I thought it was going to be Legos, but it was something, I think it was like controller buttons or something that had his face on it. And he ends up, what did he actually slam Nakazawa on with? Either way, he might have like power bombed him on it, or he might have thrown him, hip tossed him on it or something. But eventually Nakazawa is able to sneak the win and ends up, having a relatively entertaining match with a guy who's not traditionally a wrestler, which I know some people get a little bit iffy about. It's like, for example, when Christopher Daniels faced Stephen Amell, where that match was fine, but you always worry that with matches like those, it's going to, throw a bit of a shit stain on the guy, because a traditional wrestler could be having such a better match with another traditional wrestler and not a non-guy. But this one, they managed to do at least a decent job of making it entertaining, whereas sometimes these matches aren't quite what they should be. So that was the pre-show. We get to the main card, the opening match, as I'm just quickly checking the card to make sure I have the order right, because as I'm getting the list redone on me, because I didn't take notes, it has everything out of order, so I'm trying to remember off the top of my head which was the first match. It was Christopher Daniels versus Shima. I almost want to say Sema every time. It drives me nuts. That was a good opening match again. So SCU and Strong Hearts essentially opening up the show 2 shows in a row, and they've earned it. Christopher Daniels, obviously a legend. Shima, I hadn't heard of up until this point, and he's very impressive for both. I mean, both guys are very impressive for their age, because they're both not young. Lots of experience between the two of them. They face each other a lot, and it showed. A lot of quick movements. Very cerebral wrestling from Daniels for a little while. He did manage to get Angel's Wings. I thought that was going to be the end of it. Shima manages to kick out. Eventually, gets Daniels down into the corner, goes to the top rope and does the double knee stomp for the win. And Shima comes out on top with that. And I believe Shima's supposed to be having a match with Kenny Omega at Fight for the Fallen. I think that was the match they were talking about. So it's a good setup for at least what should be a very entertaining match between the contrasting styles of Shima and Kenny Omega. I mean, it's going to almost be like Kenny Omega going back to New Japan wrestling a little bit here. I'm very excited for that match. And Shima has kind of brought me back a little bit on the Strong Hearts after the first 6-man tag on the Double or Nothing show that didn't quite blow me away the way I thought it would. I think now with there being less chaos, I was able to enjoy Shima's style a little bit more. Although I still need those guys to give me a little bit more to justify the hype that was given to them. I'm still not 100% behind the OWE guys, because we were told that the like even Jericho would constantly say these guys are like Cirque du Soleil, and I'm watching the match and be like, this is the same stuff we'll see on the independents. Like, this isn't that abnormal. So I'm hoping that as we keep getting further down the line, we start seeing a bit of a different game here, because I think we're still missing a lot when it comes to these guys from China. So following that was it the triple threat women's match, or was it the four-way? I think I'm just going to do in this order because I know it's been a little bit since I've watched the show, so I'm not 100% certain on the order. I think it was the triple threat women's match between Nyla Rose, Yuka Sakazaki, and Riho. This match was a struggle and then fun at times, because you are limited into this match based on the fact that it's two really small Japanese girls against Nyla Rose, who is this massive, massive woman. And most of the match was almost like what you would see, like, say, when Ryback was wrestling, like 2 or 3 guys at a time. It was that kind of match for a little while. And then eventually Riho and Sakazaki would be able to get a little bit of offense in. They barely got a chance to even fight each other in this match, which was kind of frustrating. So we didn't even get a real chance to see high-quality Joshi wrestling. So that was a little disappointing. Nyla was a lot better, and a lot better in this match compared to the Fatal 4-Way Double or Nothing, because I was so unimpressed with her. This time around, they gave her the right girls to work with that she could just throw around and look like a fucking monster, and did every bit of that to showcase that. She ended up catching both girls doing body presses onto them, and then it ended up doing fall-away slams on them. Just various moves that just literally, like, she was throwing around them like rag dolls, like she was just taking stuffed animals and just whipping them around her room. Unbelievable stuff. But they played a very good story with this, in that Nyla was being extremely cocky and overconfident because she's got like 100+ pounds of an advantage on these two girls. And she's not taking them seriously. And any cover she makes is not really putting that much pressure on them. And it comes to bite her in the ass when Riho just manages to kind of get her in a quick hookup pinfall, gets the leg underneath her, and manages to just sneak out the 3 count. And then Nyla just attacks Riho a bit after. Yuka comes back in. They both drop kick her out of the ring. And then, strangely enough, Yuka Sakazaki tries to, like, hug Riho, but Riho, like, pushes her down and just kind of shaking her head like, no. I don't know if there's, like, a story between the two of them in, say, Japan. If there is, then maybe. But, I mean, they're both kind of almost like this magical girl, like, princess kind of character, so I'd be hard-pressed to figure out why there'd be so much animosity. So if there's a hidden story in there, I'm not aware of it. It just seems kind of strange that after that, like, of all the 2 girls that actually have a little bit of a confrontation, it's those 2. But yeah, Riho comes out with the win. And I don't think there are any implications to this match, other than that what's probably going to happen now is that Nyla Rose is going to be on a massive destruction path, especially once the television show starts. So we'll see what goes on there. And now that we've got a better match out of Nyla, I'm a lot more interested in what goes on with her from here. The only thing that I have to constantly entertain is that you cannot have her lose a lot, nor can you have her be so dominant that it looks like no one can beat her, because it will get boring. And we obviously see this with, say, bigger guys in wrestling, and because there's always a risk. You got to be very careful with competitors of this size in their respective divisions, because if you let them lose too many times, you'll never be able to get them back into being a monster. But if you also let them dominate too much, no one's going to ever be interested in anything that they're doing, because if they're too dominant, then all of a sudden people don't want to see them anymore, because they just figure, well, there's no way they're going to lose. And it's not even a game of the David versus Goliath stuff, because generally speaking, David versus Goliath only works in wrestling when it's a new match, when it's a very new competitor. That's the Goliath. And I mean, generally speaking, if it's a guy who's winning over and over again, it's usually giving people the energy to come back because someone comes so close every time. And if Nyla's going to be as dominant as they seem to be making her look now, they got to be very careful not to go too far, because people will not want to see her anymore because it's too dominant. So we'll see how they run with things from there. Following that was a 4-man Fatal 4-Way match. I don't believe there were implications of it. The winner or not the winner. Kip Sabian came out. He was going to be facing Adam Page at Fight for the Fallen. But yeah, this was Adam Page, Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy, and MJF. MJF again comes out first to do a bit of a promo. He does a couple of nice jabs at the gaming fans out there. He's like, look, I used to be a gamer like all you guys too, so believe me, I get where you're coming from. But then I lost my virginity and stuff like that. And then somebody was, he ended up handling the "you suck" chants very well, because he's like, your mom, whose basement you live in, she swallows. Like, I figured that one was coming. That one was pretty easy. So he does a very good job at least pissing off the fans. Again, he's got the gift of gab there. So he's definitely one of those guys that, in the next year, we're going to see him really evolve as he goes through this first run of the AEW television show. So, first match, I've really got a good chance to see Jungle Boy. I know MJF a little bit. Jimmy Havoc I've seen a lot of through the UK independents, and then Adam Page, obviously, I've seen a bunch here and there from various promotions that the Elite have been a part of, whether it's Ring of Honor, New Japan, etc. Very good match overall. There wasn't really anything that was... Like, there wasn't a moment that I'm going to sit here and be like, this was the moment of this match. Again, it was very much like the triple threat tag team match, where it was just a constant flow. Jungle Boy was very impressive. He's very fast and very nimble, very agile. So he impressed me quite a bit. Jimmy Havoc is still as badass as I remember him being. MJF, just an absolute prick. And Adam Page is, again, slowly becoming an up-and-coming star here in the industry. So overall, you couldn't really go wrong with anybody in this match. There wasn't really anything that I hated in it. It was just straight from the very beginning, a fun match to watch, stayed with it the entire way through, and in the end, Hangman Page does manage to pull out the win, which he should, because he does have to be prepared for Jericho at All Out when they fight to become the first ever AEW World Champion. Next on the card, we had Cody versus Darby Allin. No throne got broken this time, although he is now wearing his new trademark Thronebreaker t-shirt, which I don't know anymore if it's... I feel like if it's getting to the point we're going to start selling t-shirts on the anti-Triple H front, it's going to start to look a little petty, so I think they again need to be very careful. Like, the throne destruction at Double or Nothing was very symbolic. I'm not sure how I feel about them keeping this going with the t-shirt now. I think that might be pushing their luck a little bit. They need to be very careful to not be... For a company that says we're not competing with WWE, they are taking a lot of shots still. So you got to be very careful with that. This was my first match ever seeing Darby Allin, and I will tell you right now, I am a Darby Allin fucking mark right now. Because holy shit, that guy did exactly for me what Jimmy Havoc did the first time I fucking saw him too. The stature, the look, the atmospheric presence that he has demands your attention. And when I saw him bump the way he did for the 20-minute draw that this match had, yeah, a draw, that's also a good thing for AEW to establish right from the very beginning at these shows, that they are not necessarily going to result in a win or a loss. Draws are potentially able to happen here. And because the win-loss record is so important, this is probably also a way out of, some guys having to lose really important matches and keeping both guys high up on the standings in a sense. And this match was just old school, really good. Just Cody just taking Allin to task, just bumping him around like a motherfucker. Darby took one bump specifically where he took normally what's a power throw into the corner, but he leaned over, managed to shoot himself under the third and over the second turnbuckle into the ring post and flew out of the ring. Kind of like how Mustafa Ali takes that crazy bump where he's like on the middle rope on the outside on the apron and goes all the way from that middle turnbuckle to the barricade. Like that level of a bump. It looked fucking gnarly. Looked so good. And other bumps that he would take, there were a couple throws that he would just flop like a fucking fish. And that's the kind of stuff that I really like. It's why I like Kyle O'Reilly so much, because he just bumps so well. He makes everything look so painful and just devastating. If you take a good kick to the head, he just flops. And Darby's the same way, where everything that Cody did to him, it's like AJ Styles in the Rumble when he debuted, just making everybody look so good. Every move looked like it hurt. Every move had impact. and slowly playing the game of, he's just taken so much punishment. I think he maybe got 2 minutes of offense the entire 20 minutes, Darby did. And the story that they were telling is that Darby is so impervious to pain that nothing Cody was throwing at him was going to do anything. And it took literally a crossroads with 10 seconds left and just covering him 1 second too late for the draw. So we don't know if Darby would have kicked out. We assume that he wouldn't have. Obviously, the draw is there for a reason. But that's the way they were drawing it up, is that like Darby was pissing off Cody so much that Cody just couldn't finish him until it was too late. And if that's how they're going to play Darby right off the very beginning, they're going to make him a really beloved character. I'm almost getting the feeling, too, that they might really take a shot at like making him this crazy, like, cultist guy, like, just an absolute anomaly of just this like, ghost you can't kill sort of deal. But either way, fucking fantastic match. So that's 2 for 2 for Cody in terms of having really good matches on this card when, a lot of the times I would watch Cody and be like, well, it's fine, but it's not blowing me away. These 2 matches so far for AEW, he has done a fantastic job, because I'm not counting the NWA title match with, what's his fucking name? I can't think of the guy's name right now that he faced. But at All In when he had that NWA title match. That was still a good match too, but it's not technically AEW. So he's 2 for 2. At the end, Shawn Spears, a.k.a. Ty Dillinger, comes out and whaps Cody in the head with a chair. I really hope that they're not doing this all the time with chair shots, because I thought we made it pretty clear that we were going to stay away from the unprotected chair shots again, because we know how devastating they are. And I don't know if he got cut legit or if he bladed after he went down, but there was a lot of blood in the ring after. They made it seem like he got like the shit, like a massive gash in the side of his head. And obviously Shawn Spears is going to be starting on television as a heel, which I think is a great idea. The second he did that, I'm like, that's perfect. That's exactly what he needs. Because everybody's looking at him right now for being Ty Dillinger. And as much as I love Ty Dillinger, he needs to show his personality. And the only way you ever get your personality out in the best way possible is to be a heel. So for him to start off as a heel now, he's going to get that chance to really flourish and let himself go and just let everything out. That when the fans inevitably go back to him, because if there's any person that he was going to have to attack to go heel with, it had to be Cody, because Cody is God to these AEW fans. That is the person that he needs to start with. That is the person he needs to do. And that guarantees me, Fight for the Fallen, he's going to do this again. He's going to attack him again at some point. And he probably will attack Dustin Rhodes as well. So now he has the Rhodes family on him, because that's another way to really get some good heat. Hell, he might even write Dustin off television by doing something like, I don't know, shatter his ankle with a chair or something like that. Who knows? We'll see what happens, obviously, in 2 weeks on the 13th. But yeah, that's exactly what they need to do with him. They need to give him that chance to really push his personality out there, so that when the fans inevitably turn back to him and when he becomes a face again, he may be a legit contender for the title even by then. So we'll see what happens with that, but I was very happy with that call. And again, a great match between Cody and Darby Allin. Second last match on the card, the aforementioned Elite versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. Sure enough, the Young Bucks come out. They're in Street Fighter garb. And then almost like that Batista moment where the random fans like running around in the hallway does the little entrance thing. So a guy just runs up onto the stage, because I saw him in the corner of the shot when they were looking up the ramp, to see him running from the side to go up. So I'm thinking, okay, something's coming up here. And I'm thinking Street Fighter. I'm like, I thought he was going to come out as Bison for a moment. And then the second the lights went out and you saw the Akuma finisher animation screen going on, I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Here comes the Akuma. And sure enough, he's in that pose with the tattoo on his back and his hair dyed red. Fantastic moment. And I just spent the entire match watching, be like, there better be a fucking triple Hadoken or I'm going to be pissed. And it did happen later on, so I marked out the fucking crazy for that. Very happy to see them do that. Because again, we're at a fighting game tournament with this event. Have the fun with it. This isn't a major show, so have a fucking blast with it. And this match, again, very much like their match at Double or Nothing, obviously minus Kenny Omega and Laredo Kid, very much the same thing. excellent tag team wrestling, lots of high spots, lots of really crazy cool stuff. First time ever seeing Laredo Kid, he was just as impressive as the Lucha Brothers have always been. He fit right in there. Bunch of cool, like, I can't really tell you anything like specific because, I mean, fuck, I'd rather you just watch the match. Like, honestly, that's how I'd feel about it. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because, I mean, what is there to say? Like, it's another amazing match from arguably the best tag team in wrestling in the Young Bucks, probably the second best tag team in wrestling in the Lucha Brothers, also not to mention two of the best luchador wrestlers in the world right now in Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. So there's nothing you can go wrong with that. And then you're adding Laredo Kid, who is an up-and-comer. He's the current, I think, AAA Cruiserweight champion. And then obviously you have Kenny Omega, arguably the best wrestler on the planet right now. So for that match to go any less than 3 stars would have been a travesty. So for this match to be exactly what it was, a fantastic 4.5. Just intense action all around. Enjoyed the hell out of it. And as all the chaos starts to come down, Kenny Omega with a bunch of V-triggers to Laredo Kid finally hits the one-way angel, and Kenny Omega and the Bucks win. The Elite obviously should have won this match. Although the Lucha Bros being 0-2 so far in AEW is a strange start, but then again, Omega did lose his first match, so it's hard to see Omega going 0-2 to start things off. So, especially now that Shima's coming, you know that he's probably going to be 2-1 after this, so going into All Out when he faces Moxley, it'll be very interesting because we'll probably have Moxley 2-0, assuming he fights at Fight for the Fallen. Kenny Omega at 2-1. And, you know, we'll see how it goes from here. But, again, fantastic match from those 3 guys. So, speaking of Moxley, the last match on the card, this is where I have a bit of a gripe because they called it an unsanctioned match. So they're like, AEW wants nothing to do with this because they don't want to be liable. But then they proceed to keep all the announcers there with AEW jackets on. The ring apron's still AEW. The mat still is AEW. The AEW pieces on the set by the entrance are still there. The AEW pieces, hell, even the Fyter Fest promotions, the CEO promotions, the Astro promotions. If AEW doesn't want anything to do with it, why would all these advertisers want something to do with it? So the fact that they didn't pull all the signage down really takes away from the fact that it was an unsanctioned match. They should have just said it's a no-holds-barred match because that's what it was. No holds barred. Everything's legal. That's all it was. So for them to be unsanctioned and then talk about like it's a serious thing, but then all the stuff still stays up. Justin Roberts still introduces them. They still have entrance music. They say, you know, once the lights go out, the show's over, and then the lights come back on, and the show goes on. So it was a weird way of them explaining it. So if they want to do this again, they need to actually take a little bit more of an effort into it because if you're going to call it the way that it does and then talk about how AEW has nothing to do with this, then at least all the like imagery of it, especially like the key images for the guy's name still has the AEW logo next to it. So when you have all that stuff there, it took away from that. But then they decided to be like, okay, we're going to show you how violent we can be. And they brought out all the stops. Lots of tables, barbed wire boards, barbed wire wrapped chairs, thumbtacks. Everything was in this match. So various spots that happened. The most important ones, the first barbed wire block got thrown in. Moxley went into that first. Actually, sorry, he brought out the chair first. He was trying to slam Janela onto it. Janela hurricanranaed him onto it. He hit kind of the side, but it looked like one of the barbs on the bottom just clipped his lower back. He was cut once there. Janela also hit him with the chair. That was the last time we really saw that piece used. I'm surprised. I thought it was going to get used more. The first barbed wire board comes out sitting in the corner. Moxley goes through that as well. Doesn't really get in too bad shape of it. He actually landed as good as you could. Didn't really get too badly cut with it. There was a point on the ladder where Janela jumped off it and did an elbow drop through 2 tables. One of them didn't give, so that probably didn't feel good for his knees. And then as we got near the end, Joey Janela brought out another barbed wire board. They put it on the guardrail and the apron. Janela went through that with a Death Valley driver, I believe. That one looked a little bit more gnarly. His leg kind of got stuck in one of the barbs, so he had to pull that one out. And then the thumbtacks came in. Moxley also took Janela's boots and socks off, so he's going in barefoot into the tacks. Almost does it earlier, can't get him, so he ends up, I think, back body dropping him on it. Then Atomic drops him, so feet first into the tacks. Then grabs another bag of tacks, throws it in there, it was the Dirty Deeds, it's now called the Paradigm Shift. that double arm DDT into the tacks. I think Moxley probably got the worst of it because most of his back was into the tacks, but Moxley does pull out the win. So a very violent match, not as bloody as Cody and Dustin Rhodes, but in terms of the level of violent weapons, I was almost sitting there being like, are they going to pull out light tubes? I was watching being like, no, there's no way they're pulling out light tubes. They didn't. I really hope they never do because I don't want to see that shit. Because it not even because of the glass, but because of the shit in the light tubes. Like, you're not supposed to get that stuff in you. Like, don't do that. But in terms of hardcore matches, it was what it was. I wasn't overly... I mean, I think after seeing the blood from Cody and Dustin, I'm not going to be nearly as surprised to see violence like this. In fact, I was more upset at the unprotected chair shot that Cody took from Shawn Spears because, for fuck's sakes, guys, we know that this gives concussions. Like, this is the shit that happened with Benoit. Like, that's all I need to say, and that should tell us right now, can we not do the chair shots to the head anymore? Get your hands up, for God's sakes. But in this case, the match didn't necessarily, like, stir anything in me. I don't know if, like, the friends that watched Double or Nothing with me, if they would have the same reaction to this. Although I think the tacks in the feet might have gotten a little people queasy. But in my case, I wasn't really affected by it. I was just like, ooh, I don't want to think about that. But yeah, so that was the end, or we thought it was going to be. Unsurprisingly, Kenny Omega got his receipt and attacked Moxley after the match. So Moxley, he got pile drive through one of the broken tables. Then Omega took the tables, kind of made a table sandwich of John Moxley, did the double stomp through it. Then they went to the outside, fought around the set that had a bunch of musical instruments that never got used because the budget got slashed, so the band's canceled. He tried to put Moxley, I think, through the bass drum. It didn't work, but he ended it with smacking him in the back with an electric guitar. That sounded painful. And then as Moxley's getting helped up by the referees on the ramp, he pushes the refs away because he doesn't want the help. Omega comes back, hits him a few times with a garbage can, and then does the paradigm shift DDT of his own onto the garbage can to end it, and Moxley is smiling, almost like Mick Foley smiling in that Hell in a Cell against The Undertaker. And that's how we ended the show. So obviously All Out will have those guys in the match. I was fully suspect to see these two face off again at Fight for the Fallen before. There's probably going to be some other bit of a brawl, maybe. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have to do an episode of Road to Fight for the Fallen or Road to All Out where they say, if you guys touch one time, before this match, then you will be suspended. Maybe they do that classic angle. But yeah, that was AEW Fyter Fest for a show that was, instead of being $60, $50 Canadian for me, I think it was. This one was $10, and regardless of the price point, like if Double or Nothing $60 and Fyter Fest was $10, Fyter Fest was a hell of a deal because you got a very good event. There were a bunch of really fun matches, like even the pre-show with Nakazawa and Jabali and Best Friend SoCal Uncensored and Private Party. You got two really good matches for free, and then you had some really fun matches in the the triple threat women's match, the Fatal 4-Way, Daniels and Shima. Like all the matches on the main card were really good. They were very high quality matches. So you got your money's worth, especially if you're only paying $10. So no complaints from me. Again, like I said, this isn't better than Double or Nothing, but I don't know if that maybe just has first time bias with Double or Nothing. But I felt like we got some much more important matches. And this was just a bunch of throwaways, but all of them were just very meaningful matches. The only downside was the Ali Leva Bates match, which was just bad. Like, Double or Nothing had a kind of forgettable match in Kip Sabian and, oh my god, the Panda guy. I'm blanking on his name right now, but you probably know who I'm talking about if you watch Double or Nothing. That was just more like, it was fine, just didn't do anything. But Ali Leva Bates was an actual bad match on the card. So it only took 2 shows, but they had at least one match that I'm like, okay, we could have easily done without that one. But overall, still great card. Was very happy with it. And in 2 weeks on the 13th of July, we'll have Fight for the Fallen, and I'm very excited for that as well. Even just to see Cody and Dustin tag for the first time since I believe that match where they got their jobs back facing the Shield. So that'll be really fun to watch. Actually, no, it's not true. They tagged up a Stardust and Goldust for a little bit. I'm losing myself a bit here. But yeah, it's going to be a very impressive show. Again, I'm more looking forward to All Out because obviously that's going to be their big show before the TV starts. And then hopefully we are able to hear up here in Canada about what's going on here. I keep hearing rumors that TSN's in talk with them, and if they can do that, I would happily be able to watch that. If I can watch that on TSN Go and not have to have cable, because I haven't had cable TV in 5 years, and I don't plan on getting it. So I really hope that we're able to get something out of that here in Canada, because I don't want to have to get an Android box and have to steal television. Like, I don't want to have to do that. But I mean, if I have to in order to watch AEW, that's what I'm going to do. It's an inevitability. So I'll probably talk about it more when I do a video on how I'm feeling as a wrestling fan, because I'll do that at some point before AEW television starts. But I'm going to tell you guys straight up, now that we're 2 shows in, I'm convinced that AEW is where my attention is going to go as a wrestling fan. So my plan is that when the television show comes up, I will be reviewing every television show and every pay-per-view. Obviously, I'm going to be doing that with Fight for the Fallen. I will be doing that for All Out. But the plan is to have, hopefully, I don't know if because I thought it was going to be Tuesday nights, which would have worked perfectly because my days off are Wednesday from work. But if it's Wednesday night, it's going to be a little difficult to have these out the following day unless I stream them after the show. That might be my only option, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But from then on, well, I mean, we'll see when we get there. So otherwise, yeah, fantastic show again. Not as good as Double or Nothing, but I mean, not as good as Double or Nothing is still usually a pretty good show. So all things considered, had another great time watching some really high quality wrestling, and I keep getting more and more excited to see where this promotion goes down the line. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this with all your wrestling fans out there and get the message across how good this show is. And I will see you guys tomorrow when I do my Canada Day special, and Wednesday when we have the Radical Rant podcast, although it's starting to look a little bit light because news have been very quiet on this front, so we'll see what happens. But either way, next time I see you, I will see you. So take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week.